I can see my novels in my head. I can see the story. That might be from my childhood and imagination, coupled with my time in Hollywood. So people say, are you a plotter or seats of the pants, right? The plotter is a person who writes down what every chapter is going to be. Seat of the pants, you just start writing. That's me. I have it in my head where it's going to start, where it's going to end. And as I go along, I go on the journey with the book that I'm writing.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck. I'm here to help you live a life on purpose and not by accident. Each week, we dive deep into real stories, raw truths, and powerful conversations that challenge you to give a heck about your life and the life of others. Today's guest is Kay Oliver. Her journey from Hollywood's glittering but often unwelcoming landscape to becoming an award-winning author is a testament to resilience, creativity, and purpose. After more than 30 years in the entertainment industry, Kay transitioned from screenwriting to novel writing, turning rejection into recognition. Her debut novel, Disturbed Tombs, earned 4 prestigious awards and launched a literary career that now includes 15 that's right, 15 acclaimed titles. Kay is a survivor of breast cancer, an inductee into Who's Who in America 2024, and was recently named Fiction Author of the Year 2025 by the IAOTP. Her stories celebrate triumph over adversity and elevate women's voices with grace and power. She writes with heart, wisdom, and deep understanding of what it means to rise above. Get ready for a conversation about storytelling, perseverance, and the power of writing to change lives. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Kay. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited too. We had a great pre-conversation. Anybody that's listened to the show realizes that I've said this before. That's the best part, the pre-conversation, getting to build that rapport, getting to build that connection so that we ensure there's chemistry, that you really get the best value out of the Give a Heck podcast. And thank you starting off to everybody for investing your time, especially you, Kay. I appreciate that because our time is an asset that we don't realize and it's ticking away, right? So anytime somebody's willing to
Absolutely.
invest time in you and time in myself, I take that as to be gold, treasure. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, time is the one asset we have that we can't get back.
Oh, of course, yeah. And what's the word? Fritter away. We
Fritter,
just, yeah, fritter away our time. We don't take the value of it. Are you creating memories? We don't look and analyze our own lives and the circumstances that we're living in to see, are we living a purposeful life? Are we living with intent, right? And whatever your intent and purposeful life is, people listening or watching, I'm here to say I respect that. But at the end of the day, do you respect you? Are you liking
right,
where you're at in your life? If you're not,
right.
maybe it's time to learn how to give a heck about your life and live purposely with intent. So, Kay, I always like to start with this. I mentioned this to you before, and you're a rare gem, somebody that's listened to one of my shows. So you understand the importance of what I like to talk about initially is the origin story. People's earliest recollections are so important and they tie good, bad, indifferent, ugly. Maybe some people have a great childhood, but even that great childhood was a catalyst for what happened in the future, right? So, could you do me a favor and please share your origin story from your earliest recollections to wherever you want to stop?
Well, I would be happy to do that. Um, I didn't have a positive childhood growing up. I had what many people are now recognizing as a narcissistic mother, someone who was interested in herself. And even though they didn't use this term then, they used it a little later, I was a latchkey kid, along with my brother. And so I spent a lot of time with myself in my room, and I would imagine things. So then in sixth grade, I had the opportunity to enter a speech contest, and I wrote my speech and performed it. And they didn't want to give me first place because they felt that my parents had written my speech. They had not. My parents were not involved in my education, well, probably whatsoever, um, to be, blunt and honest about it. And at that point, I knew I just loved writing. I loved writing. And so I would write little stories and poems and things when I was in my room growing up. And as I went into junior high, I joined the speech team and loved that and would do improvisation speeches and won awards and enjoyed it. And when I got into high school, I did a lot more physical activities. I was in the drill team and did a lot of stuff like that, but I never lost my love of writing. And so when I decided to make a career, as you mentioned in my bio, I decided to get a degree in radio, TV, film because that is storytelling in a different format. And I went to work in Hollywood. I went to work in the news first, as we were talking earlier, and quickly found out I didn't want to work in the news because I had been talking to a celebrity who was just, I don't know if you want to say downloading now is the right term, but telling me all this about his life and what was going wrong and where he was in life, which wasn't a good place. And I had to decide, do I make my career in news by telling the story and going out there and, getting myself a nice place in the news world, or but in that by doing that, you'd probably ruin this person's life, right? Or, dish out information that's not out there. And I decided, no, I can't ruin someone's life just because I have this knowledge. So I kind of transitioned out of that, went to work at Universal Studios back when Lou Wasserman owned it. And that's a point because it was more family oriented. We called him Uncle Lou. Even though there's 1,500 people on the lot on any given day, not counting the tours, we felt like a family. And then that sold, and that family orientation kind of got lost. And I ended up eventually working at DreamWorks with that would be Jeffrey Katzenberg and Steven Spielberg, as you probably know, uh, the film end of it. And I had a first and last. Most everybody there would have, if you worked there and you wanted to submit a script, you could. Did some short films for the film festival and things like that, produced, directed, written. And they loved my scripts, but they were female oriented, strong, independent female women leads in these movies, and they were quote unquote unmarketable, as one would say. They preferred strong male leads and action. And even though mine were action, I write, I still write action packed because that's what I love. So, women can do a lot of the same things that action packed men can do. Maybe not pick up a 20-pound barrel, but they can certainly knock it over and push it down against the person running after them. So, when I was working in Hollywood, not at DreamWorks, but when I was working in Hollywood, I did get breast cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was let go from my job. So I lost my income and my insurance, and I struggled through that with the help of friends. I made it through. I 17 years clean now, so that's nice. And when I went back into Hollywood and would hear that the what I call a rejection, that the women characters are not as marketable, I decided, well, heck, I'm going to go ahead and take that leap, trust myself, believe in myself, two different things, and leave on my own accord, knowing that I've done it now when I didn't have a choice and survived, that I'm going to do it and write and start writing. And I did. I wrote my first novel, as you mentioned, Disturbed Tombs, won 4 awards. So I knew I was onto something good, and I was taking my imagination that I had developed at a young age and now putting it into books. Most of my books have strong, independent female characters. They're action-packed because I love it. Um, I love to have twists happen in the, as you're reading along. Kind of, I learned from Spielberg that you don't do as much foreshadowing. You do some foreshadowing so they can go back and connect the dots. But, all of a sudden you can read a sentence and everything's getting really intense and all of a sudden something crazy happens because that's what happens in life. And that's how I like to write. So I use my stories, I make them as human as possible, but fun and energetic.
Wow, that's quite the origin story to go from not being given, a first in grade. It's ridiculous, right? How the education system can work anywhere. And unfortunately, education isn't fluid. It's
Correct.
all over the place, right? So sometimes there's teacher pets, and somebody could write crappy and get a first, and somebody writes fluently, pardon me, and very articulate, and then they're just not given their due because they thought their parents. I was accused of not necessarily writing, but having somebody help me with my homework, and this is when I was in engineering school as an
Oh, wow.
adult. Right?
Wow.
I said, "What, really?
It happens then
What
too. Wow.
what gives you that impression that I did anything wrong?" Well, this is well versed and blah. I said, "You know how many hours I put into writing that article that I had to write for, because we had to take writing classes, even in engineering,
Right.
like technical
That's
writing
right.
and writing classes, and I was the top of the class. I get up and speak, had the natural gift for it. Okay, now present what you wrote." And the teacher initially questioned the fact. He says, "Did you get somebody to help?" "No, I did it myself." "Well, what would give you that impression?"
Yes.
And at that time when I wrote that article, married with a kid. I said to him, I says, "When would I have the time to get together with anybody to even get help?"
And who would that
No,
be?
no
Yeah.
computer. Like, there was no
R-
internet at the time. That was when I was that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I just sort of chuckled, and we talked it through. I ended up getting the high overall, being number one in the class, getting the highest mark, right,
Yeah.
out of 28 or whatever different students. Not because I was better than them. I was more versed than them. I was willing to put in more effort than them, and I liked writing,
Right.
so it helped. Just like
Right.
you. So you saying you like writing, it, that catalyst that at a young age is phenomenal. I enjoyed that comment, though. You didn't talk much about your brother, but you talked about the fact of you were a latchkey kid. That
Yeah.
term is so prevalent today, right?
Yes.
For
Yes.
those that don't understand what a latchkey kid is, it's somebody that comes home with a key hanging around their neck, maybe in their pocket. A lot of times it was old shoelace or whatever to the key, and they put it over the kid's head so they could get in because mom and dad had to both work,
Yep.
right?
They're not home.
Still that happening today, and it's very, very prevalent. But that's what a latchkey kid is, because I do have people go, "What's that?" So I figure we better
Yeah.
explain that a little bit. um, but all the experiences you had from dealing with Spielberg, and the different nuances of dealing in Hollywood, your experience in an entertainment industry is so important as to why you became a novelist. But what would you say happened in the entertainment industry that made you become the novelist that you are, though? Was there something specific that triggered you, or a person that triggered you that just, I could do so much better?
Yes. There was a person. He just passed away.
Oh, sorry
His
to hear that.
his name is Robert Redford.
Oh, awesome.
So
Yeah.
so when I was watching one of his movies, that he produced and directed, Malingual Bean War. That's the short version of the title. Um, that movie, just the opening scenes made me go, wow, this is fantastic. At the time, the stars were not named stars that uh, that were leads in that movie. The story was phenomenal, and I went back to find out who directed, who made this movie. When I found out it was Redford, I got the chance to meet him a few times actually and talk about it. And he is a story first man, right? Uh, when he has control of a movie, when he had control, I talk in the past tense. Oh my God. When he had control of a movie, it was story first. And it wasn't, if he acted in it, he was in it, but it wasn't about branding himself. It wasn't about what do I look like in this shot? Oh, do you have the right angle? We have those actors out there. Um, he was about the story and about, making sure that the story was full, complete. It was, something you can relate to. And I used that in Hollywood for my films and things that I wrote. And then I use it, of course, in my books. And having worked in Hollywood, starting out actually, in love with video editing, the editing portion of it more than on the set. Um, I could put the story together and I knew what I needed in the story. That transitions into my writing because I can see my novels in my head. I can see the story that might be from my childhood and imagination, along with coupled with my time in Hollywood. So people say, "Are you a plotter or seats of the pants?" Right? The plotter is a person who writes down what every chapter is going to be. Seat of the pants, you just start writing. That's me. I have it in my head where it's going to start, where it's going to end, and as I go along, I go on the journey with the book that I'm writing.
That's great though. Seat of the pants writing. That's
Yes.
I've got one book and pale in comparison and not fiction. It's um nonfiction. It's about my life and it took 5.5 months. And I think about the experience of writing and the experience of, seat of the pants. And initially it was one large, here's what I want to do, right? Talk to
Right.
the editors and stuff, got them to help me put some sort of game plan together. And yeah, it was very roller coaster, cathartic, right? But, at the end of the
That's
day,
okay.
yeah, seat of the pants sounds good to me. I like that. So yeah, Robert Redford, God rest his soul, great man.
Yes. I miss him already very, very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, I can imagine many people do. As an entertainer, I didn't know him, but as an entertainer, certainly he will be missed. Hollywood needs people like that, and unfortunately, it is a lot about what you're saying. Do I look good this way? You know what I mean?
Yes.
No, you can't do this. You can't do that. A lot of prima donnas, I guess they call them, male
Hmm.
and female, right? But whatever.
Yes.
That's Hollywood. If you want to be in that world, and I've interviewed a few people that have done things in Hollywood over the years. Um, but at the end of the day, that's your crazy. I have my crazy. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. Thank goodness. So their crazy drove you to be who you are today. So one of the things I wanted to ask was, you spoke about the rejection faced with the female pitched centric screenplays, right? And
Yes.
I can imagine that obviously that fueled your challenge and fueled your determination to write stories that are centered around that. Have you ever had anybody say to you, well, okay, you're doing really strong female, you've done all this stuff now with your books. What about the men? Have you ever had anybody say that to you, or you just continue to, I'm going to stay on the path that has been most successful?
Uh, No one said that to me. However, I have two books out. Well, maybe, well, I don't know if the one's kind of half and half. I have two books out that have male leads. So I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
opposed to writing male leads. Um, it depends on the story. Again, back to
Makes
the
sense.
good story.
Yeah.
So my Road to Elysium was like my fourth or fifth book, and that's won 10 awards. That does start with a guy, a male lead named Ken. So, and that story is about redemption and second chances and split second decisions that can change your life, your entire life.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well,
So I do.
I wanted to ask because at the end of the day, I have a male population that listens too, and I want them to understand that, they can fit within reading the current context with women-centered leads, but maybe they're looking for something to dive into the world of your writings. And that's why I asked that specifically, because
Yeah,
everybody has a different stroke,
right.
right? So
Now, my there is no male bashing in my books. Let me
perfect.
point
No
that out.
women.
The relationships that I have in my books, like in my Disturbed Tombs series, I have four books. Her husband is Derek, and he is a police chief, and they work together very well because he's got interviewing skills, she's got her skills, and they work together on things. And things
Sweet.
happen to him, and she can help him. And so and one of those books is dedicated to that character, Derek, because so many women loved Derek in the books that I said, okay, let me write one that's more focused on him with her kind of on the sideline because that's how life is. There's times when, you need to support your spouse, whichever way it goes, and they need to support you. So that's how I write. So yeah. And then my latest book is a leading male character, and it just launched the 17th of October, Fear Struck, and it's about a male writer.
Mm,
So, and how his fiction starts to come to life. So, with murders, because he writes murder mysteries. So he gets accused of doing the murders because they're following his book per se. So yeah, so I
sweet.
do write about men. Um,
I'm not
but
trying to take
that's
away from women. I'm just
oh
curious
no,
because of
no.
my listenership. I need to,
I will I
ask
will
questions that they might ask you. Well, what about what about us? Where
you,
do we fit into the picture? And
so
obviously,
would
with
it
19 books, there's no way I can research them all. There's no way.
15, but thank you. I'll
Oh,
get to
15.
19.
Pardon me.
Um
15. Pardon me. I apologize.
you put the 9 and the 15 together.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah.
you know I'm going to write 19. Um
I'm just tongue tied.
they say write what you know. So when I wrote my first book that was male lead, I'm not male, right? So I wanted to make sure I went to a male editor and said, I want you to really look at this lead that I wrote and let me know if that's not what a man would say, if that's not what a man would do. And he came back and said, no, you pretty much nailed it, which I was, happy to hear because that was a concern of mine. I'm not male. I don't think like a male, so I want to make sure that when I do write the male parts, that I've taken that into consideration. And will ask questions of my brother or anybody else. What do you do in this situation? What would you do? What would you think other guys would do? Because I want to make sure that it's authentic as I can get it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good
Yeah.
because to think that we know how another gender and what they go through, like
Right.
even as a male raising my kids as a single dad, I talked to women. Obviously, I had to understand the complexities of the fact that four of my five kids are girls. So,
Oh, almost all
right,
girl dad. Yeah.
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 So, um,
Completely different. Yes.
so yeah, so it's important for us to have conversations with even people of whatever view you are. We talked about that, I think, in the pre-recording. If you believe one thing, you said you go and research it. You don't trust necessarily what is first presented to you, and I appreciate
Correct.
that reflection because I'm the exact same way. When you are writing your books, back to a little bit, I talked a little bit about the cathartic process of it. So 15 books from even being a screenwriter, how did the cathartic nature of writing help you yourself, whether it's fiction or nonfiction? What part of you was implemented into the book, and what do you get out of every book is basically what I'm saying. Do you find that to be a very rewarding, satisfying thing at the end, or does it really make you think about your own perspective? Because now you've interviewed your brother, or you've interviewed other men, or you've interviewed women. How has this affected you and in the way that you think?
Well, I think every time you write a book, especially if it's your first book, every author says, no one's going to read this. Why am I writing it? And you need to put that aside, right? I want to write it. My first book was answering the question I've had for years. Why do we dig up every body we find in Sudan and Egypt, every mummy. We find 28, we dig up 28. But our graveyards are sacred. right? And we can't touch those. Why do we think there's a difference there? I know it's another country and they allow it or whatever, but, and it's science, but are we disturbing their life? So my first novel was, about that, and I answer it my way. Um, and I didn't realize how complicated that novel was writing it until I went to write a second novel, because you go back and forth in time as bodies are being, dug up, and from when they were originally buried. And um, when I finished writing that first one and answering my own question my way, it was very rewarding. It was, and that's why, I continued to write, because I could bring forward, and these, female his stuff of history. They're historical fictions in a sense, but they're action packed. I like Clive Cussler as when I'm reading, and if you know Jack Ryan and those kind of series, they're full of action, and they're on an investigation. Well, that's what my books are like, because that's what I like to read. And I could take historical figures like Boudica from England, and most people don't know who she is. And she was a female warrior back fighting against the Romans, successfully fighting against the Romans, using chariots before the Romans used chariots. And that kind of information I love giving to my readers in a story, because some her bones have been discovered, and she, her piece was broken, and Dr. Callie Worthy, who's the lead character in that book series, finds a way to communicate with them. And then she has to find linguistic experts, because she doesn't know all these older languages. And, so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fact finding for me. I find out information. Um, People have told me that a guy from Sudan was impressed with my book, saying, "You, how many times have you been to Sudan?" And I'm like, I haven't been to Sudan. I have on Google Maps, I have on my research, but I myself have not been there." And he was shocked, because he really thought I'd been there. And when I get that kind of feedback, I get, happy and excited that, wow, okay, I did what I wanted to do. And the other thing is, I go on a journey with them. I go on the journey when I'm writing the book. I'm part of the journey that they're on. And sometimes when I finish a book, it's like, wow, this book really means something to me. Or I'm sad I finished the book, because I still want those characters. So the one I just released, I am writing the second novel of. I normally do not write my series in order. I have two series out already, and I will go back and forth between the series, just to keep my head clear on, what story I'm writing. But this is the first time I've gone from book one to book two, because I just didn't want to let go of the characters, and I wanted to take another ride with them. So I go on that journey. Um, it's just almost like sitting in my bedroom as a child and coming up with imaginations and stories in my head. I'm now in my living room doing it on my computer with my dog next to me. And, I could be in my pajamas all day, because I write all day, because I'm so excited about what I'm writing about. So
That's
that's
awesome.
how I feel.
That's awesome. I love the fact though you write fiction books, they're truth centric, I wrote down, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
answer in your own way, but they're still based on truth. Obviously, you have to add entertainment.
Yes.
Because if people are just reading a factual book, they might as well grab a pamphlet or go summarize it from wherever they can find
Go get a
sources.
textbook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go and
Go get it.
summarize it in a textbook or sources on internet. So I like that you articulated that you literally are true centric. You answer it in your own way, but it's still right. You're bringing it to life based on you and how it connects to you. That you leave a certain portion of you in that book because
Absolutely.
because you created it. That's your baby. That's your 15 babies later, and you're writing number 16, and that's just fantastic. That it's always centered on a passion which comes across very strong from you, which I really appreciate it. So when you say what would you say your mindset shift has been from book one to book here, right?
Ooh.
What's your mindset Yeah, mindset shift been? Like, what has changed? Has your craft or mission along the way changed at all from book one to book 15?
Craft. Um, that was a, I want to hear you say that 10 times fast. The mind
Craft, craft, craft,
shift.
craft,
No,
craft, craft, craft.
no, mind shift. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
so
mind shift?
yeah.
I don't know if I can
Um,
say that 10 times.
um, the craft has changed. Mindset, I don't think so, but I'll explore that as I talk to you.
Okay.
Um, the craft has changed because when I first started, you tell people what's happening. I walked into a room, right? That there's your sentence. My character walked into a room. As you're getting your voice and creating your voice, and I say this to all new writers, I do uh, blogs on writing tips for free. um, you create your own voice, and then you learn to write. Not that they walked into the room. It's like as he entered the room, the dim light flickered, and the smell of smoke wisped in the air. And you describe the scene. You describe what he's doing, as opposed to telling your reader what they're doing. And I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to put more emotion in the sentences instead of he said that briskly, it would be like, he muttered these words and briskly added that, and then thought about what he had said, those kind of things that are adding more flavor and color to the story. And my books got longer. That's an automatic reaction from that. But sometimes I will write something and go back a little later and read it and go, I wrote that? Um, it's just like, oh, that sounds really good. Um, and other times I feel like, oh, I didn't write that quite right. I don't feel that strong, with this scene. I could rewrite it. That's the beauty of writing, is that your first draft is never going to be your finished novel, right? We know that.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
Great novels are made in the editing stage, and it is a fluid, living beast, as they like to call it. And I worked on the movie Backdraft. I picked that up from there. It is the a moving, flowing beast that you can move around, right? If you don't like this paragraph here, you can change it. I don't, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or I write something later on and go, oh, you know what? Let's slightly foreshadow that earlier and add that, somewhere else up in the book. And it's a live beast and it's not done. Even when it's published, it could be tinkered with. Um, it's just like a movie where you can edit, 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 and you can either be an editor who finishes the movie and hands it over, or you can edit it till your deadline and try to continue to tweak it and then rush it over, So, everybody can edit a movie a different way. Everybody can write a book a different way. You yourself can do it different ways. So, that how to write the book, how to give more information, how not to just tell them what's happening, but show them what's happening, show the expression on the face. Don't say he got mad. You can say his face, he stared her down, his hand went in a clinch, clinched, and the readers know, oh, he's mad, so that's what I have graduated to so far with the 15 books.
Wow. That's, when I think about it, you mentioned about blogs, free writing tips. You're giving back, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal. You spend most of your days, as you mentioned too, you write all the time, right? And so on top of writing books, you're writing a blog and doing so much. In that world that you live in now, do you miss Hollywood at all?
I get that question a lot. Do I miss Hollywood at all? No. I do make book trailers of all my books. I have because I can do that. I have the Hollywood experience and the editing knowledge. Um, but Hollywood, this is how I frame it when people ask me. The only glamour in Hollywood is when you're walking on a red carpet and then you're taped, hairsprayed, sucked in, haven't eaten for 3 days, and you pray to God that nothing falls off, and you're wearing heels that you normally don't wear, and that's the glamour. Because otherwise, it is a business. It is a business. You work together. There are some true people, that I still am friends with, and there's people that you don't work well with. And I used to tell people when they'd meet me and they didn't know me that I worked in a warehouse. I wouldn't say I worked in Hollywood because all this ideas and
Preconceived
stereotypes,
notions. Yeah.
preconceived notions come with it. And have you worked with, and then they start asking you about actors and actresses. Have you worked with this person? I've heard this. Um, I didn't talk much about the bad stories either. And those are coming out as we see, not nearly as much as what actually happens in Hollywood, but people have warned me about certain individuals to stay away from because of their activities, which we are now finding out about in the news. And so, I didn't think people would believe me anyway because it's so far-fetched. Who would believe that somebody so well known would put drugs into drinks to, have women, um, when you think that they're just dropping at their feet. So I stay away from both the really bad and the really good about, I'm an even keel. It's a job. You come to work, you work whatever hours you're working, you hurry up and wait a lot. And the beauty and the creativity is something I love. So I'm getting that out of my books. Watching Redford direct Sneakers when he was working on that film at Universal and when I worked there. Just to watch him work and the way he worked with people and the way he treats people. But that's true about, you could say that about any CEO who understands their employees, who values the people that work for them. And so it's not really different other than they're putting stuff on film and people are acting. And the acting part, of course, is the smallest part of the film, right? So it's all the pre-production, writing the script, making sure finding the locations, da da da. That's a year, 2 years, and the post a year, 2 years, 6 to 8 weeks, on the average for a movie of shooting, and yet the actors get the credit, all that big credit. Um, but it's just normally the smallest part of making a film.
But yet when you sit at the end of a movie, there's a million different people's names come up, and that's their, well, let's say 2 seconds as it scrolls by, 2 seconds of part of their fame that nobody understands really anyway.
Right,
Hollywood's done a terrible job of explaining the intricacies of what it takes to produce movies, to television shows, documentaries, whatever. It's horrible. Like all these different terms, lead grip, this and this. People don't understand that stuff.
right. I
So,
get that
so, so,
as
so, so, and now Hollywood's trying to, they put those trailers in like Marvel does, Disney, to make people sit. If I sit to watch that minute and 30 seconds at the end of the movie, my brain shut off watching all that crap scroll by. I'm just being real. So I understand what you're saying. It's always the people at the top that get all the credit for all the work at the bottom. And that's like any business. Hollywood's
right,
a business, like you mentioned, right?
right.
100%. So what if you had to say, sum it up, what's your favorite part of being an author as opposed to anything else you've done?
Ooh, as opposed to,
Yeah, opposed to Hollywood doing scripts. Like, what is your favorite part of being an author? What
well,
what
the
what
reason
makes your step what makes your step a little bit quicker when you think about the fact of your accomplishments and
being
that you're an amazing author?
the creativity. There's creativity in Hollywood, but the difference is you answer to all those people above you, right? The people who are going to put out the movie, the people who are going to distribute the movie. Everybody has input. Um, the only people who have input in my books is my editors, right? And when you find an editor who gets you, that input is story oriented, not personal, or when they come back and say, I would have liked, you should do this and that, and it doesn't fit with what you think that character would do. That doesn't work for you. You need to find an editor, and I'm blessed with a fantastic editor who gets my stories and gets me. And yeah, does she make suggestions? Absolutely. And I ask questions. Hey, what do you think about how I did this? Give me feedback. um, the Road to Elysium, I had an editor who said, the one part of the story where the young boy knocks on the car window and asks a man he doesn't know to teach him how to do a sport. She came back and goes, this can't fly. This will never happen in real life. And I go, that's the true part of the story. That is what happened. And she was like, oh, really? You're kidding? And I'm like, no, that's what makes the story. So you get somebody who's kind of arguing with you about what is real in the, kind of, so I like having the freedom of my creativity when writing. I can go anywhere in any country at any time span while I'm sitting in my living room.
Oh,
And
using Google
that's
World. Use the
using
world.
Google World. You can drive down the street that you're talking about in the book that you've just done. And I want my readers to do the same.
That's awesome. You know, so many people discount the fact of, even if you're a person that does copywriting or does whatever, like just writing a little blurb, right? The
Yes,
creativity is who you are, right? Your creativity comes out, and I can read or look at people's stuff and know it's them because their
correct.
creativity shines through in the way that they, the way they articulate themselves, the way that they flow. So you're going to have commonalities from book 1 to book 15. Who are you, right? And how
Yes,
you serve up and deliver. And it's amazing though, you get your tribe, your following, they love that. And they'll fall on a sword, pardon me, for a good author, right?
yeah, yeah, they will. That's true.
Even through the terrible books, I'm not saying yours are terrible, but I look at some of Stephen King's books. I stopped reading his stuff years ago. But I initially, when I was a young adult, I did, like in
Yes,
18, in my mid early 20s. Then I stopped reading them just because they didn't connect with me, right? They weren't the
right.
same. I don't know if he went through a spell or if he's still that way. I don't really know. But my point is that Steven Spielberg and a lot of people, and the way that not every book's good.
No, no, Steven Spielberg's had failures. It's what was that whatever that 1914 or whatever that film was one of them. He's had
Oh,
several. So
1940, 1942. Oh,
is
I
that
can't
it?
remember. No, I can't
19
remember. I
some
know what
year.
it some year, and it was terrible, but
Yeah. And
and at the end of,
that long AI movie, whatever
oh
that
my
was,
gosh,
3 hour movie. Yeah. So
yeah, I don't,
everybody has,
some hills and
misses.
valleys, hills and
Yes.
valleys,
Hills and valleys.
right? So you've asked this question a lot, I guarantee it. But what would you do in regards to taking your novels and adapting them into Hollywood? Would you allow it? Have you been approached? Is this something that interests you, or would you just rather not?
I have been approached on Road to Elysium, the script. I did write the script. Um, Hesitantly because you have to format a script, and when I write now I don't have that format to bind me down. um and it's out with about 4 or 5 production companies, I think. um a lot of writers want to be part of the movie making part, like, yeah, here's a script, but I want to be attached. I don't really care to be attached. I don't hold on to my work in such a way, or maybe I'm knowledgeable that it will change when it goes to film. For many different reasons. There's things that you don't have to say in a film, you show it instead, right? So if a character is a strategic person, they have a new tech, they have a chess set next to them like they're playing with somebody, and you see different things, clues in the film about that character where you write them in the book. So things automatically change, and then directors and people have their influences. So I'd be like, here you go, take it, run with it. Um, I want to come to the premiere and see what the heck you did to my book, but I don't care to really go back into Hollywood and work with it. So if and I would be particular as to who would purchase also. I know that there's some people who, might want the book for their own glory, because Ken is a fantastic character to play. Um, he goes through a lot within that book, and I'd be careful as to who maybe the lead actor or somebody might be. I'd like maybe possibly to put some input into that. But other than that, you can have my books. Yep.
Yeah,
Make
I'm not,
make
I'm
them buy.
not, I'm not climbing back into your crazy. Just write me a check and do what you want.
Yeah, I could have said it in those 2 sentences. Yes. I'm not jumping back into the crazy. I don't need to go back there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
crazy train, no way. At the end of the day, you look at people that are always aspiring to put themselves up on a pedestal. So I can see that happening with your books,
Yeah,
especially how well you articulated the fact of, you know, got the hero of the novel, and you have all these different aspiring people that would love to play that and showcase themselves as, you know, being the de facto standard, like a Brad Pitt
right.
or a Tom Cruise or whatever, right? Well, Tom Cruise is kind of short, so is, is
Yeah,
Ken tall? Is Ken tall?
who? Yeah, yeah, that's Ken's tall. Ken's tall.
Okay.
But that didn't
We
stop.
can't
That
have
didn't.
Tom Cruise unless he's on stilts.
Tom Cruise is a big no. But remember, he played Reacher, and
Jack Reacher, yeah.
yeah, and it's much better with the new guy. But, you know, because he's supposed to be
Oh,
a big, huge guy in Reacher, and Tom is not that at all.
yeah, no, I agree 100%. So, you know, let's get into some advice to aspiring writers. Yes, you have the blog, you have the free tips that people can obviously research, but so many people dream. Like I know as myself as a child, okay, I dreamt of writing children's books, and then influenced by Stephen King and even, you know, different books that I read over the years. And then as my kids were growing up, I'd read them books and they'd always say, Dad, make up a story for us. So I'd start making stories, and those stories would be like, this is night, okay, the next night, oh, okay, Dad, what's the next part? This, and they'd listen intently. And I just make it up off the cuff. I'd be laying there, and a bunch of them would run and jump into a bed, and we'd all be sitting there. And depending on the circumstances of age, I'd make, of course, age appropriate stories. We'd say our prayers all together, and then, okay, Dad, what stories? You don't want me to read a book? No. We want to find out more about this. And I didn't sit there the day going, oh, geez, what am I going to put? What am I going to say to them? I just made it up. I was
Right.
very creative, and then a lot of them they'd question me, why did that happen? You know what I mean? So writing is very powerful. But if I wouldn't have ran into somebody years ago that encouraged me and gave me some proper steps and advice and led me to how to get started, I wouldn't have never gotten even one book out, let alone like the 15 that you've gotten. So what would be advice that you give aspiring writers? Where should they start?
Inspiring writers, step number one, create a space to write. So I bought a new desk. I gave myself a new desk. I put it in front of a window so I can look out. I put a nice plant there. I got a cushy chair. I put my dog bed next to it. Find a place to write. Number two, start writing. I don't care if you're writing 15 minutes a day. Start writing. The book's not going to happen itself. You don't get to the top of the mountain without climbing it, unless you're dropped out of a helicopter, then whatever. But start writing. Uh, three, don't end on the end of a chapter for the day, or maybe not even complete a sentence, so that when you go back to write, you know you're in a thought already. So you go, okay, I was talking about this, da 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 da, right? Starting at a new chapter is a little difficult as well. So that's why I say don't end the chapter and say, I'll do chapter two tomorrow. Don't end chapter one. Leave it unfinished and then finish the end, and you'll flow right into chapter two. That
Hmm.
helps with writer's block. And number four, I think I'm on four, right? Um, it is a piece of work. It is, don't worry about writing a perfect draft. Don't do it. Don't go back and change sentences and things to get it perfect, because that's not what the first draft's about. It's about getting the story down. So just write freely. Just keep writing. I'm a Virgo. I want to go back and correct things. Don't do it. Just continue writing, get the story down, do your 15 minutes every day. That 15 is going to turn into 20, into 30, into 45. It's just going to grow on you. So, but if you're not sitting down and doing the writing, it's not going to happen. So, even with children and spouses and work, 15 minutes a day is doable. So, do that, make it a habit.
Just like anything, yeah.
Yep, yeah,
It's just
pretty
like,
much.
oh, I can't exercise. 15 minutes? Come on. You can do
Right,
15 minutes, right?
right,
How often have you sat, person listening or watching, and scrolled in your phone for 2, 3 hours?
right.
Is that an investment in your future? Or maybe it's an entertainment value for you, or maybe it sparked up your mental state of mind and you're angry because of what you've read. And really, there's not a lot of investment into it, a little bit of entertainment. How about you invest 15 minutes? Work up to
Right.
that hour, 2 hours, stop working on social, work on you.
Get that story out of your mind. And
Yeah.
as a writer, I'm sure you've had the same experience. People come up to you and go, "You wrote a book? I have this idea of a book." Yeah, right? And that's what they say to you. And they say, and you're like, "Are you writing it?" And they go, "Well, no." So you got to go start writing. Got to start writing. So,
Or for the people like I give my book out all the time. I
yeah.
buy 'em cases. I can have a service person here, and I did the other day. And I said to them, they asked me about stuff. They're working in my house. They see my book over my shoulder that the publisher gave me. And I said, you know, this is what I do. What do you do? But like, what do you do outside of work? Obviously, I know what they're
Eh,
doing. They're at my house doing service. And I'll say to them, do you like reading? Oh, I love reading. Not really. What is that? It's a filter because the person that says, oh, I love reading. If I give you one of my books, will you actually read it, or is it going to collect dust on your shelf? I'm very blunt with people.
yeah. Yeah.
Even when I went to Europe a couple years back, I was there for 3 weeks. I took 8, 10 books with me. Why? I met the most interesting people in Spain, in Italy, in Portugal, in England over this 3 week or a couple week period, 3 week period. Pardon me, that a friend of mine traveled, and I gave away my book. But even in broken English or translation, number one, can you speak English? Read
Read
English?
English.
All right. Why am I getting? I'm
Most
not
of them
getting.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, most do, right? Because they're talking to me in English. Most do, but it doesn't mean just because you can talk that you can read something effectively either,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it
Right.
can be the opposite way too. Like my dad can write, he's 84 years old. He can speak German, but to read it, he struggles
Yeah.
because they haven't had to read it since he was in grade school when because he was a first generation Canadian, but he didn't speak English until he was like 5, 6 years old, went to school. Everything they spoke was full German growing up, right? One of
Mhm.
18 kids, there was an English spoken house. He got smacked. Hey, you go to school, that's where you're going to learn English. And that's how it
Yeah.
happened, right? We become articulate in a certain language and doesn't necessarily mean you can go both ways. So
True.
I love the fact of what you said though. Like I wrote down the points. I like to flow into the next chapter. Don't leave, yourself hanging.
Right.
Right? Don't leave yourself hanging. And that makes so much sense. And I think in a mental mindset way, I'm not sure if this would be the case, but for me to leave, let's say there's 3 pages left on the chapter that I need to write. I know I can do it. But if I leave it that way and I have the mindset of feeling unsatisfied, that's not going to help either. So I think I'd have to have the mindset of, oh, this is exciting. This is going to keep me driven till tomorrow.
Yep.
Close it and go on.
Yep.
Yes? No, that's,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because when you go back and even if you don't really know and you start to reread that last paragraph that you wrote, you've already sparked something. So you're going to go on.
So, and that's fair. Let's go on to the mindset shift of being resilient. So many people don't know how to be resilient.
Mm,
how what would you say to an aspiring author once you get to that point and you start presenting it to people? You're going to get recognition, you're going to get rejection.
yeah.
Do you yourself become resilient to all of that when you got started, and maybe it still happens sometimes today? What would be your recommendation to a new writer on how to deal with that circumstance?
It's the old sales term that, you knock on the door 10 times, you'll get 10 no's. The 11th time, you'll get a yes. So not everybody's going to be into your book. Um, Not everybody is going to understand what you're doing. So learning how to do that pitch, that is a skill in itself. Being a writer is one thing, but learning how to pitch, and there's people who can teach you that as well. There's a site that I belong to that taught me how to pitch. Now I had to know how to pitch movies as well. And so that what they call the elevator pitch, right? Know how to say it in 2 or 3 lines and, know your book so well that you can just say it in a couple of lines. And uh, opportunities present themselves at weird times. You could be in an elevator with someone goes, that sees you're carrying a book. Oh, you like reading that book? No, I actually wrote this book. Oh, wait a minute, tell me about it. You don't know, like you said, you don't know when that's going to happen. Um, Talk about service people. I have my books on my staircase. I've run out of stairs, so I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. But they walk in and they go up the staircase and they see that every book has my name on it, and they go, "Wait, are these your books?" And the
Mm,
conversation starts. So that happens too, and I give a lot of my books away too for charities. But I've lost my train of thought.
that's
But
okay. It was about resilience. It
oh
was
yeah,
about
resilience, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I lost my train of thought in the middle of resilience. You just keep pushing ahead. If you're passionate about it, if you're passionate about a movie, if you're passionate about a story, if you're passionate about your biography, even a textbook can be passionate. Um, you're going to overstep that. You're not going to look at those people who say no. You also want to surround yourself with people in your life who are going to push you forward, who are going to tell you to keep writing, regardless of how many errors are in that text. Whatever it is, that's a good book. Keep writing, write another one. Make sure that you're talking and being influenced by the right people. Um, and yeah, there's bad days. Treat yourself to something. Maybe you got 5 rejections in one day. Oh, we all feel it. We're all human. We don't want rejection. Um, but you know what? The day that it's not rejected, you're going to scream and dance and be excited, and you just look forward to that because there's going to be a day where it's not rejected if it's good. Um, and just, the same thing with anything in life. If you're going through something bad, look forward. Don't look back. Don't say you shouldn't have written it. You just haven't connected with the right people. That's it. So, know that and live that.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on, yeah,
Realize
keep on trucking.
today's rejection, which was a no, could be a yes tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you're closer to that yes, because if you got to do 10 and the 11th one's a yes, right? So every time someone says no, you're closer to the yes.
And normally the no's are there for a reason. They're there to
Correct.
protect you, and they weren't the yes you should have been hoping for. So don't beg either. I don't care what it is, not even
Yeah,
just books. Never give away your power to people, right?
right.
And
Absolutely.
so if somebody says no to you, be courteous, respond to them. I don't care what it is, whether it's any type of business. Thank you so much. I appreciate your candor, your honesty, whatever their response is. If something should change in the future, reach out to me. Otherwise, ta-ta, best of life. I don't necessarily say that ta-ta, Pocket, but that's what I'm thinking. Bye-bye. See
Yeah,
you
exactly,
later.
exactly. And if they've
Right?
given you, and don't feel afraid to ask for information.
They
What
do. They
about it
saved
did
you
you not
time.
like? Yeah.
Or
What?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah, you
ask
can learn from
questions
too,
too, but a
if
lot
you
of them
feel
don't
so
even
inclined.
respond. A lot of people
Yeah,
don't even,
black hole, the black
especially
hole.
when you're dealing with corporate.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just like whatever. Or now with the advent, which we're going to go into the flow of with AI, you don't even know if a response on social media or an email or whatever was anything original. And I'm not against people using AI. Take your original thought process. If you're frustrated and you want some proper flow, and use AI for it. But today, AI, like they brag about it that you can write books, right? You can have it write websites, but it seems emotionless to me. So tell me
Exactly. Is.
your take on AI. Will it ever replace fiction or nonfiction writers? And how do you see it as being a support rather than something to fear?
Yeah, it's will it ever replace fiction writers? I don't know that answer because it's learning on its own, so to speak. But currently,
Stealing? You mean stealing on its own?
yeah, yeah, stealing on its own from other, right. Um,
Sorry, just
it's okay. That's what it's doing. I'll make it. I don't. I use it periodically to flesh out an idea, to maybe a sentence. I'm just having a problem with these three sentences together. It's just not flowing properly. I'll see what it'll say, but I always have to massage it. I just don't cut and paste and use it. It will also make errors. It might change your characters from a she to a he or a he to a she, and you're just like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And to not pay attention to it could cause you issues. But to write a full fiction book, I don't see it right now. It's not human. It won't throw human things into the story, so my characters interact as people do. So if you're a frisky woman and you've got a frisky husband, you might be in the middle of a death scene and go over and grab his buns. That's in my book because that's what happens in real life. I don't see AI doing that. Um, it doesn't really. I think it tells you more than describes it to you. It might learn that eventually, but it'll say they walked into a room, and I don't want that. I want, to have the description and the flow of the story. And can it write a book? It can write a textbook, but then I double check it too because it makes up fake references. It makes up, fake information that is not accurate. So I'm not even sure that I would, it'd probably be harder for me to go back and try to catch all that stuff than it is to write it myself. So that's where I feel AI is, if you want to make a pretty little email, great, use AI, but double check it still. But as for writing a full fiction novel, I don't see it right now.
Well, yeah, like the fake quotes it comes up with. I asked it to research somebody here recently, right? And then I have the paid version. I don't have the free version, and I'm asking it a question, and it comes back and says this quote, and I went, I happen to know this first. When was this quote said? You know what AI came back and said? It said, "Well, the quote was made based on who they are, and we felt this would be something they said." Okay, why didn't AI say that though? Like a little note or a little thing saying this was made up.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't do that.
so then I copy and paste and I use that, and it's de facto standard, but it's not, right? I've even asked it to do stuff about me to challenge it.
Yes.
Oh man, that's fun.
Yes, you should. Yeah, everybody should try that because my name's pretty common. There is another writer out there that goes by K. Oliver. That's why I use the middle initial A. And all of a sudden, I've written more books than I knew what to do with. So, not even my style. So it's kind of interesting to, yeah, it does that. Or
Oh
or I'm
yeah.
a doctor down in San Diego. That's another one. But yeah, yeah. So
You got to be
that's
careful of AI. I'm not so for me it would be
right,
it's a great tool. I like how you put that. You can put something in. I can be writing a long email, and in the past I'd read through it and read through it. I'd wait because I wanted to make sure that the context of the email was valid, right?
right,
I didn't have extraordinary circumstances affecting my 6 inches between my ears and it coming out in that. So I'll say, I'll copy and paste it and say, here's what I want to, here's what my intent is. Here's what
right.
I've written. Can you find any holes in this? Can it,
Or
or
make it more
any,
professional
yes,
or yeah.
or empathetic. I'd
Yep,
like this
yep.
to be way more, or I want this to be rude and ignorant, or I want this to be with, you can say, I want this to be done with humor. Like you can do
Yep,
all this stuff, but people, when you do that stuff, is it genuinely you? So if you're somebody that talks with humor or delivers with humor, specific topics, they're going to expect that. When you're being serious, the people in your tribe are going to know when you're being genuine. So don't use it to be somebody you're not. Use it to
right,
enhance who you are. That's how
right.
I look at AI.
Yep.
So
That's where it's at right now.
I'll get off my AI soapbox and we'll move on to the next thing. Um, so your novels are known for weaving life-affirming wisdom, right? Into every page, whether it's fiction or not. We already had in our conversation that there's real value, real time, real you in there. What do you hope readers take away from your stories, especially those that are navigating adversity?
I hope, and I have had some feedback that people will put down my books and wonder, would I have done that way? Or that was a great way to handle that. I have to consider that. People tell me they read my books not only because it's a fantastic story, they say, but because they learn from them. And that to me was not an expectation when I was writing the book, but now I'm conscious of it when I write a book, that, how they handle a situation. All of my, books have to have conflict because we have conflict in our lives. So, they all have to handle things. They're not golden children by any means. My characters get in trouble. They get in trouble with each other. They, both do. So that's true. And how they handle that, and if they do it in a playful manner, if they do it in a serious manner, I have both. And so I like to make sure that a lot of the what would I do? What are the feelings? What have I learned in my life that if I was in this situation, how would I get out of it? I know myself that I use a lot of creativity to get out of problems. So when you're in a bad place, creativity is a fantastic tool to try to figure out how to get out of that bad place. It really is, even in life, ordinary circumstances. So that's in my books. And definitely, I'm going back to Road to Elysium in particular because it is a redemption story. you know, his knee-jerk reaction leads him on this whole different journey that he never expected to have. And in that journey, he's now mentoring a young boy. Well, there's circumstances that he runs into there. There's a little bit of racism that happens that he has to, he jumps in and he overreacts to it. And there's other things where he has to learn himself as he is teaching and mentoring the young boy. It's not one-sided. And as we teach people things, we learn as well, as we all know. So that is something that I put into my books because that's how I learn. I learn, by experiences. And my a lot of people will say, "My gosh, you are the woman in every book you write." You are, that's part of you there. That's part of you there, and that's true.
Well,
You
your identity doesn't have to
yeah,
be stripped back just because it's a fiction book.
correct, correct. And
Right?
no, I'm going to use what I've had in life and what I've been challenged with in life, and what I've learned in life, and the ups and the downs, the hills and the valleys, as you like to say, and yeah, and so those are in my books because I'm writing from me, from my point of view, what would happen with that character. You can't, you shouldn't deny that, right? You should, put part of you, just like every movie or every character someone plays, part of them is in that character. The way they walk, the way they talk, the way they motion. So the same thing is true with a writer if you're writing good. Well,
And that's a great response, but it's so true though. At the end of the day, our creativity can pull us out, right? So if you're reading somebody else's creativity about a circumstance, and at the end of the book, they reflect and go, "Oh my gosh, would I have done this? How would I have done it?" The most important thing I see, you made them think. Our
yes,
brain is a giant computer. You don't feed it or challenge it, it just hits, it goes into like a camped mode. And people wonder why we get ill, we get sick, we get depressed, we get anxiety. It, feed your mind some positive things that are going to change it. And if that's a fiction book that makes you realize that in your own life circumstances that maybe you're doing something right and it's a pat on the back, or you're doing something wrong, it's a pat on a kick in the pants, pardon me, then so be it. But actually
yeah,
put some effort in. If you are on the hamster wheel of life, you'll never escape it. If you don't, crack open the cover of a book and actually read. And if you're a person that loves Audible, like I do, because I read so much, I like Audible when I'm driving or if I'm
right,
going out riding, whatever I'm doing, do something. Change the inputs that are going into your brain from just social media, traditional media, your friends and families, your current associations. If you're stuck and you feel stuck, are the first thing you need to work on in order to get past and be able to write a book or to be able to start a podcast, be able to maybe reach out of your comfort zone and leave that job that's
yes,
mistreated you for 5, 6 years and you're going on to a new career like you did,
yes.
right? It's all possible.
You have to believe in
Starts with a baby
yourself.
step. Yeah.
Right. and trust in
President.
yourself. Right.
Absolutely.
I'm,
So
yeah.
go on.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I have a director friend who used to come to me, and every time he finished a project, he would say, "Oh my God, I'm worried. I'm not going to get another show. I'm not going to get another movie. I'm not going to get another project." And I would look at him, and one day I finally said, "So, do you do anything you need to do? I mean, like if you need to go flip hamburgers, are you going to go flip hamburgers? Yeah. So you've always done what you need to do. So you need to start believing in yourself because you're going to go out and do whatever you need to do to get that next show. So I'm not worried about you." And he was like, "I've never thought of it that way." So, that you have to trust in yourself, that you know yourself better than anybody else. And if you're the type of person who's going to move forward or do what it takes, do whatever it takes, trust that that's what you're going to continue to do. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this book published and out. If I have to knock on 200 doors, you know, um, knock on 200 doors. You know you're going to do it. Do it.
Exactly.
You don't have to do 200 doors on one day. You do, five a day.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah. And on that one baby step, if you have a failure that day, do not cower. Get
Yep.
up, dust yourself off, put a band-aid on your boo-boo, and learn from it. Assess
Right.
the circumstance the next day, try again,
Yep.
right?
Well,
Nobody that's been
right.
successful in life hasn't tried. Go look at Colonel Sanders. You go to
Oh
1100
yeah.
financial institutes at 68 years of age to get a loan to start KFC up. You do that. Or go
Yeah.
look and see what Sam Walton did. His current family are vile, but Sam Walton was about America. He was about supporting North America. He was about his value systems were just amazing. And at the end of the day, what he went through to create, Walmart or Dave
Right.
Thomas
Right.
with Wednesdays. I've read all
Oh
these
yeah.
books, by the way, people. You
Yes.
go
Yeah.
read his go read his biography about his life, or what the creation of McDonald's
Right.
and
Right.
how vile Ray Kroc
Henry
was.
Ford. Henry Ford went
Right?
bankrupt a couple of times. And actually, the assembly line was created by the woman who made the Colt gun. She started assembly lines. So I got rejected for, not, the screenplays weren't marketable. Well, you're not going to stop me from writing. So we move on. We find a way.
We always have our tribe. We always
Yep.
have our voice. We have our community. But in order to know what your tribe is and your community, you need to step out of your comfort zone, right? So you know that, I know that, and we'll quit beating that to death. Is people, you have to step out of your comfort
Yeah.
zone.
Yes.
Nothing worthwhile in life. Any of those actors that want recognition, screenwriters, people in, I don't care. It can be sports.
Yes.
It can be somebody I work with, or work with or work against. At the end of the day, I have my unique talents and skills, but I need to broadcast them in a good way, right?
Right. Right. And if something's not working, then maybe a little change up. Like you said, if it's a company that's not recognizing what you're doing, you find one that will.
Exactly. So, Kay, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of encouragement, something from your own life that proves it's always worth giving a heck and never giving up, what would that advice be?
I've got a couple of personal sayings, but one of my favorites is uh, do everything you do with love, with the intent of love. And that includes stuff you do for yourself. So when you breathe in, that's an example I like to use. You breathe in with the intent of loving yourself. You're breathing in the nutrients that you need from the air. It's a different feeling. If you take a second and do that, with the intent of loving yourself, it's not that automatic, that you do all day long. It feels a little different. So if you do everything with the intent of love, I don't care what people say about your intentions. Because when I worked in Hollywood, I would do things for free. Somebody needed something. One of my celebrity friends was holding some kind of charity event. I would get things together, buy things for them, and bring them to the charity event. And in Hollywood, the saying is, when you do something like that, they look at you and they say, "What's in it for you?" Nothing. I'm doing it because I respect you and love you. That's it. I don't want to be in a movie with you. I'm not writing, I'm giving you a screenplay to sell. I'm just doing it because you're somebody, I like what you're doing and I want to support you in that. And so doing everything you do in the intent of love, it takes some celebrities a long time to figure out that's exactly what she's doing. And I have some great celebrity friends now because of that. Because one finally called me and said, "You keep doing this, and you've never asked me for anything." His exact words when he called me on the phone, and I said, "I'm sorry that so many people ask you every time they do something. They want you to do something. That's the bad part. The I am just doing it because I like what you're doing and I support you." And it's sometimes a hard thing for people to understand. Right? It's just like showing that act of kindness for no apparent reason. You don't want anything back for it. You get stuff back for it. I'm telling you, you feel good about it. You can't help it. That's not the intention, though. The intention is supporting somebody. So, that in Hollywood, I would get that question a lot. Well, what's in it for you? Why are you doing this for me? Because I want to. They didn't understand that answer. Because I want to, because so many people in Hollywood want things from you, right? And I just want to. And I was told at one point by somebody that, oh, they're just going to take, advantage of you once they know you're doing that. They can't take advantage of me unless I let them take advantage of me. So I don't worry about that either. And I thought about it when that person told me, like, should I not be doing this? And then I went, no, this is what we should be doing as humans. If everybody did that, did one thing a day, two things a day, what would this world be like? It would be more loving. It would be less expectations. It would be less greed in the sense of I need something back. So that's my sentence. Do everything that you do in your life with the intent of love, including your own breathing. When you make your dinner, well, I was married, I got divorced. I remember thinking to myself, I used to make dinner for the love of my husband. I'm going to continue cooking for myself because I love me and I make my own dinners and have. It's been a long time since I've been divorced, a couple of decades. And,
Me too.
important to me because I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do for me.
Well, self-love is so important, right? So you
Yeah.
just say to do everything, with intent of love. If you don't love yourself, your intent is always going to be what's in it for them, what's in it for me. You're always going to have that underlying mistrust of people, right? And yes,
Yes. Yeah.
society's done a great job of making it that way, right? Oh, if I come help you with your let's neighbor thing, help you with your fence, what are you going to do for, you know what I mean?
Right.
You owe me one. I'm so
Right.
tired of people saying that to me, hey, give me some, you owe me one. What?
Yeah.
I don't owe you nothing. How about, oh, you want to start that way? How about the 10 things I did for you and now you finally did one for me? Right?
Right.
But
Right.
I don't get that way. I just smile and register it up here, and my
Yep.
actions in the future reflect their lack of appreciation or their lack of trust in me, right? And sometimes this can
Correct.
happen with people that have been in your lives for decades, right? It's just like, what?
Yes.
You know what I mean? They've had a bad day and they chose, and you're now their punching bag or whatever, their puking zone, their dumping zone. Those listening or watching, don't be that person, right?
I concur.
Just give, love with intent, right? And love yourself first and keep on going from there. So, what's the best way that people can reach out to you, Kay?
They can come to my website, which is my full name, Kaya Oliver, Oliver.com, Kaoliver.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, um, and which is equivalent to X. And all those are listed on my website. My books are also available on Amazon.com, so you can find them there, and my author central is there as well.
Sweet.
And yeah, it's all listed and all my upcoming information and my blog for free is under kaoliver.com/blog. So you don't have to give me your email to read it. You don't, need to give me personal information. You can just click on there, find out what topic from starting to write, to how to name a character, how that is important, how to develop a character, when to stop the book, when to end the book, that kind of information from every topic that I can think of, I write about.
Right on. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's always good not to have writing diarrhea, just like verbal diarrhea is not good. Just
Right.
keep it on because you don't have a ability to stop and know that, especially if you want people to buy your next books, right?
Right, right. There's a movie about that with, I believe, Michael Douglas and Robert Downey Jr. And Michael Douglas is the character who's a writer, and his book's getting longer, 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 and longer. And I love that movie. I can't even think of the name of it, but
Okay.
it's hilarious. And I always think of that every once in a while. Like, am I writing too much? No, but I write around 60,000 or just over 60,000 words per book. So
Yeah, my book is about 32,000. So yeah,
it's a novella. Yeah. No, it's a novella. That is a style of book. So
100,
yes,
150 some pages. My editor originally came back to me, fired the first one, got the company to give me another one. We just didn't see eye to eye, this lady,
right.
right?
Your editor's important.
Got somebody else. We seen a little bit more eye to eye, and yeah, we need to dumb this down to eighth grade. What?
Well, that's funny because
There's too many people that aren't gonna. I get it because but not everybody's at the same intellectual or emotional or stable level to interpret. So I said, okay, fine, change the tone.
yeah, yeah, that's funny because I write my books, I call them easy reading. The one thing I dislike is if I'm reading a book and I come across a word I don't know, and I have to stop and look up what that word means. And I didn't want that in my books. So I make sure that, yes, it's easy readings, smaller words when I can use larger words. But then I find out down the road that, oh, people are reading my books going, oh, wait, what is that? What is she talking? I got to go look up Boudica. And they stop and look up the character anyway. So I'm
Well,
like,
and now
okay,
all of
but
a sudden they've lost the flow of the story,
yeah,
right?
I'm like, okay, well, I try to explain to you, you can look her up after you're done reading, okay? Yeah.
Awesome. So, for those new to the Give a Heck podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite podcast platform, go to giveaheck.com and you can go to the top, hit podcast. You will see Kay's picture and you will see detailed show notes. I'll ensure all the links that she mentioned are in there for her social media as well as for her blog and how you can communicate with her. There'll also be chapter summaries so that if there's a certain section that you really liked, you want to listen to it again, you don't have to hit the old forward button until you get to it. You'll be able to look at chapter summaries. And for those of you that are really dedicated, the full unedited show notes will be there as well for our fantastic, amazing conversation. So any last final words before I wrap up the show, Kay?
No, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And for you out there listening, if you want to write a book, sit down and start writing. Anybody is capable, and find the right editor, and you can get it done. I,
Absolutely.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, it just takes time and live outside of your comfort zone.
Yep, take a little risk.
Yeah. So before we close, remember this. Your story matters, whether you're writing it, living it, or rewriting it. Give a heck. Give it boldly. Hayes' journey reminds us that rejection is not the end and resilience is the beginning. Your next chapter starts with one brave sentence. Pick up your pen. Start your story. Let that story change your life. This has been Kay Oliver, Hollywood veteran, literary powerhouse, a voice for those ready to rise. If this conversation moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that their voice matters. If this episode resonated, please subscribe to the podcast or hit subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review or rating in your favorite app. Like, comment, and share on social media. Every review and share helps amplify voices like Kay's and reminds others that storytelling is a path to healing, hope, and purpose. Until next time, remember, it's never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.